Good afternoon, everyone. Corn harvest progress map. You know it's going to be low this year. Cold and wet weather blamed for the lowest maize planting on record in the U.S. You know food prices are going to skyrocket to the end of the year. Nobody wants to talk about the Grand Solar Minimum to explain away why your food prices are going to rise indefinitely and magically. You can see it from space, Mom. The oil fires from Iran. Don't talk about the massive floods that continue year after year in the planting zones, or that fixing the Saudi oil facilities will take at least 6 months, just in time for the harvest season. I don't believe in coincidences that much. And it should concern you that if truckers stopped working, grocery stores would run out of food in 3 days. Remember, when the oil stops, so does your life. I talked about the inception of the channel about a year before the global food shortages. There would be a purposeful collapse of the markets to lock you down so you can't move to new food grow zones. And it looks like we're just 1/5 of 1/8 of an inch away from that. And let's talk about the official data revealing that the U.S. has broken more all-time low temperature cold records in 2019. Oop, bury that under the rug. Too inconvenient. So how prepared are you for emergencies? My Patriot Supply, long-term food storage, 2-week grab-and-go food crate, or the 4-week food supply. Give yourself peace of mind so even if the stores do lack in delivery, you still have sustenance to keep your bodies going. The links in the description box below, Adapt 2030 and My Patriot Supply. Now, with everybody that has a memory of a goldfish, I'm going to bring you back here to the cold and wet weather. Slowest planting season on record in the United States, stretching back to 1938. This was accompanied with the biggest floods Nebraska had ever seen, plus multiple floods heading down the Mississippi River, the Mississippi cresting at the highest ever recorded, farmland swamped, and the mainstream media just quit talking about it. You knew it was going to be tumultuous coming into this harvest season. Just an example of Illinois corn planting, that black line at the 10% mark compared to the 100% mark. Yeah, that's where we are 2019, 90% reduction. And as we look through the losses here in reduction of year-on-year averages, minus 65% in Illinois, down 59% in Indiana, and look at the minus all across. You think we're going to have a good corn crop this year? Doubtful. But here's where it gets really interesting. These are the numbers percentage-wise harvested by October 5th. So just in a couple short weeks, we will absolutely know how much corn we have or will not have across this country. Food prices were expected to skyrocket at the end of the year anyway, and so many people would be aware around the holiday time what was going to happen. Thanksgiving especially, when food prices would be doubling or 50% more than they had paid last year for items that you might buy once a year, cranberries, this type of thing, pumpkin mix. It's all about the Grand Solar Minimum. You know, there's so many people out there, physicists, talking to government officials. They know what is happening with this cycle, but for some reason, I guess it's to not create panic, which makes sense, fine. But when we start to see our crops looking like this, iced out in corn, first frost crippling Iowa corn farmers here September 10th, you know, we're getting into losses now because of frost. Forget the flooding, now the freezing's coming early. Inflation, that's a nasty little monster. 2% anyway per year, but now we're coming into something that the Fed can't control called food. They can't print more food. Conveniently, though, look at this. Satellite images of the fires from the Saudi oil facility. Now it's time to explain away all the losses. And it gets even better when they come out and now say, satellite images reveal it'll take 6 months to fix these oil facilities. A 5.5 million barrel drawdown on the world total supply. You know what that means for you and I? Inflation, prices up. Do you remember 2008 and 9? Now all the commodity food prices can be explained away. No, wasn't the Grand Solar Minimum crop losses. Wasn't the reduction in amount of available food. China lost 35% of its crops from armyworm. Nope, it's the Saudi oil facilities making all your food prices go up. I don't believe in coincidences that much. For all this to be happening right now, you can draw your own conclusion on that. This comes out from the USDA corn principal areas in the United States by harvest date. We're coming into that large black swath here in the first weeks of October, and as we get further north, it'll be later on in October, get a really good gauge over the next couple of weeks of where the corn is going in the United States. Could expect some prices up, in my personal opinion. Soybeans as well. Energy experts warn that oil shocks will hit the economy with incredible speed, usually 30 days. So they give quite a few examples here from 1956, 57, in the Suez Crisis, the recession right after that. Yom Kippur, 1973, again, U.S. post-peak oil shocks, economy slammed. How about Iran, Iraq back in 1979 through 1983? And then we all remember what happened in 1991 when we entered the Gulf. We saw what happened in 2008 and 9. And how about 2011? Supply shortages, $100 a barrel oil. You know how that wreaked havoc through the global economy. So it seems like 2.0 is in play here, the collapse. But the point was, from the beginning of the channel, I kept saying about a year out before we get into the point where they're going to have to start rationing food in some countries due to inavailability, that there would be a financial collapse to lock everybody down on the planet so they could not move by the hundreds of millions to new destinations that have more stable food growing areas. You know, this oil shock, I mean, you should be shocked. If you didn't live through the 70s and saw the lines at the gas stations, keep in mind, when the trucks stop, so does your food supply. So again, it's a great excuse. Oh, oil prices went here. There was a regional shortage over there. If your grocery store doesn't have items, it can easily be blamed away on the Saudi oil event. Again, how easy is this one single event to explain away 5 different things that could happen in our food deliveries? So now let's take you further out into the actual planting and harvesting. This shows the start dates and the end dates. So when we look at places like Indiana, it'll be starting, the 20th or so of September, and it'll roll up through mid-October. But when we get further north, we start taking a look at the end of the harvest won't be until the end of November. So get some good solid figures to begin with at the end of the month here. But when it shows shortages, they're going to have to explain it away. So here on Electroverse, take a look. Incredible, rare, low-level snow taking Australian forecasters by surprise. They didn't even know it was going to snow, and it snowed. Bishop Airport, California, lowest temperature ever recorded since 1895. Arctic cold on the way already. Wisconsin vineyards decimated following historic cold and wet growing season. And it just keeps rolling on and on and on. Christian over at Ice Age Farmer has a great rundown on the crop losses due to cold here in the first weeks of September. But again, off Electroverse, this was a good one from NOAA data set. Official temperature reveals the U.S. has broken more all-time low temperature records than max temperatures in 2019. 60 new record low temperatures, all-time record lows set, compared to 41 new high maximums. This is for 2019. In the news, they're telling you it's like 4-1 breaking hot. Well, here we have NOAA even stating that all-time temperature records are more frequent on the cold side than they are on the heat in 2019. Now that's for the all-times. When we come to the dailies, mainstream media pushing that ratio of 4-1, breaking the heat records to cold. But look at this, NOAA's own data, daily record summary, reveals that year-to-date, 10,447 new temperature maximum records were set, compared to 9,567 new low cold records set. That's not 4-1. That's closer to 1-1 or 1.1-1. And as we progress through the harvest season and all these price spikes come, it's all going to be blamed on a couple of drones. Can't be the Grand Solar Minimum. That'll spook people because the food's going to be pricier and pricier as we move through 2020, 21. That's uncontrollable. Thanks for watching. Hope you got something out of the video. We talk about this with the timeline as well, moving forward, what you can expect with price shocks, food inavailability, food rationing through 2025 and 28 in the new book, Climate Revolution. Grand Solar Minimum, Understand, Prepare, Adapt, and Thrive. The link's in the description box below. It's another way to support the channel, and I will see you next video.